Chapter 8 Gay Breakdowns Part 2 Benji was cooler than Regulus thought. He had never really thought about them, not in any context other than being part of the opening act, but they were funny and more laid back than some of the other people Regulus had met so far on this tour. Marlene said you were writing us a song. Regulus smiled despite himself. He was slightly intoxicated, not drunk, which he felt the need to point out, and the reminder that he was getting back to doing the things he really enjoyed just made him happy. Not exactly. Close enough, no? They said, leaning against the table. Here's the thing. Regulus knew when people were flirting with him. It happened often enough that he was able to recognize the signs pretty easy. It was especially obvious in the body language and the tone someone used. With that said, he could tell that Benji was flirting, and he didn't care. In fact, he accepted it as openly as he possibly could. It's just the music. Regulus didn't do humble brag. He was very aware of all of his achievements, and he would accept the proper praise that came with those, even if he didn't do so very well. But he didn't like to take credit for things he didn't do. Would you play me something? He couldn't help it. He laughed. It was ridiculous. One of his wrists was broken, wrapped in a literal cast, and Benji was asking if he was able to play something. Before he could even tell them how that would never work, considering his circumstances, James walked in. He was clearly dressed for the show, although they weren't going as far out as they had for the Miami show. Less makeup, less hair gel, just less. Still, James seemed to look good no matter what, which was infuriating. The only thing that made it slightly better was that he seemed slightly disarmed by Regulus's appearance, which definitely wasn't the point. When getting ready, he had put absolutely no thought into how James would react. Regulus was lying to himself. He decided to not think about that. Whatever James's reason for coming into the room was, it wasn't very important. He left as quickly as he arrived, leaving Benji and Regulus alone in the room again. You never answered my question. Benji. I literally cannot, he told them. Benji must have been drunk too, or high, because they did not seem to understand that Regulus literally was physically incapable of playing anything. He could try to play the piano one-handed, but it wouldn't sound like he wanted it to. Why not? They pouted. Regulus lifted his left arm a little. Benji drew his attention to it. Oh, well, when that heals then? Regulus highly doubted he would still be on tour by the time his arm healed. In fact, he only had a couple of days left anyway. But a little lie never hurts anyone. Sure, when it heals, he promised. Marlene walked into the room, a strong blush on her cheeks that she clearly hadn't meant for anyone to see. It was too late, though, and Regulus knew exactly who the reason behind that blush was. He was absolutely going to be teasing Dorca for this. Are you okay? Benji asked her. How's Dorca? Regulus said innocently. Marlene narrowed her gaze at him. How could you not tell me about her? I don't make it a habit to play matchmaker. Well, you should. Really, if all of your friends are that beautiful. They were. Dorca and Pandora, even Barty and Evan, although Regulus would never tell them that in a million years. All of his friends were gorgeous, which was actually a little bit unfair. Regulus had to leave the room after a couple of minutes because his phone just kept going off. It didn't make any sense really. Everyone he talked to was at the venue. They could have just come and found him. He waited until he was in the most secluded section of hallway, only to find that the number that kept calling him wasn't even a saved one. 774-288-9098. Still, he would recognize it anywhere. There was a reason it wasn't saved anymore. His phone started ringing again. 774-288-9098. He didn't answer it and just stared at the missed call notification a bit frozen. They had a deal. Regulus sent them money. They never spoke to him. It worked. Had he missed a payment? He couldn't have. He had just sent one a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of the month. 774-988-9098. 774-288-9098. 774-288-9098. Again and again. Something inside of him pressed the answer button. Some part that still loved them, a part that hoped they loved him. Regulus had never been one for wishful thinking. This was why. "Hello," he said, his voice a bit tight as he put the phone up to his ear. He found himself wishing that Sirius was there. He was always better at dealing with their parents. Regulus always gave in. "Regulus Arcturus," his mother said angrily. Fucking fantastic. What had he even done? "I," he said again. He hated how small he felt whenever he spoke to them, like everything he had built for himself, everything he had done, was just gone. He was 7 years old, hiding under the staircase after spilling a glass of milk. He was 14 years old, crying after he had been caught with a boy in his room. He had learned his lesson after that. He was 16 years old, taking the beatings in Sirius's place, bearing the brunt of their anger all alone. "You had one fucking job. You know that, don't you?" "It's just a bone," he said. Really, he could go back to dancing in a couple of weeks if he wanted. Although losing all of this time and all of this practice was only going to hurt him, he was never going to be how he was before. "I'm not talking about that," Walburga said coldly. "Then what? Do you even check your email? Does your manager not tell you anything?" Regulus had no idea what he could have done, and why his mom was so upset about it. He was an adult. He had his own life separate from them. "My manager is great, thanks." He would not be letting them talk bad about Dorca, not when she was one of the only good things in this stupid fucking world of ballet. "Check your email, Regulus. Now." He did, because of course he did. He was weak, and he was confused, and his mother was yelling at him as if he were a child again, as if no time had passed since the last time they spoke. And Regulus checked his email because he was still right under their thumb. He was a fool to think he had ever really gotten out. His email was a disaster. He hadn't been checking it at all. He wasn't working, so what was the point? Apparently, there was one. He clicked on the first one, which was a link to a magazine that had a bolder headline, one that caught his attention immediately. Principal dancer Regulus Black caught kissing a man in crowded Miami club. Fuck. One job. That was what his mother said. Don't let them find out you're gay. Well, she said it in much harsher words, but he did not like to remember those. He had never intentionally led people to believe he was straight. He didn't get caught photographed on a date with a girl. Dorca would never allow something like that. The public just assumed, which was their own fault. He danced ballet. Was it really a surprise he was gay? But this was not good. There was a reason he also didn't get photographed with men. A reason he made them sign NDAs. They would not like this. The picture was blurry. and at the very least, it was impossible to tell that the other guy was Barty. Not that he'd even care. He prided himself on being quite equal opportunist, and he had hardly shy about it. Not that many people knew Regulus was gay, just his close friends. He didn't go around advertising it, really. It was no one's business but his own. So this was going to shake things up in a way he was not at all prepared for. Popular ballet dancer Regulus Black recently fell on stage and got injured. During the time he should be spending resting, he's traipsing along the coast of Florida and making out with men. Is our favorite ballerina secretly gay? Sources tell us that there was more than one man Regulus was with that night, which makes us wonder what is really going on? Is his wrist injury just a ruse so that he could party? One thing's for sure. Women everywhere are mourning the loss of Regulus Black as a bachelor. We suppose there is always his brother, rockstar Sirius Black, as an option. Rita Skeeter for the Hogwarts post. Fuck. Well, Burga was still on the phone, but Regulus wasn't sure he had the courage to lift it back up. It had been really bad. Explosive, even. When his mom caught him with a boy by the name of Frank. He still had a scar from that fight. In fact, even Sirius couldn't help him. From then on, as far as his parents were concerned, Regulus was straight. He never brought a guy around again, even platonically. It was too risky. If he thought he was fucked before, it was nothing compared to now. There were no places that would hire him now, even though a large majority of principal dancers were gay in some way. There was a more powerful majority of homophobes running the whole thing. Hesitantly, he brought the phone back up, while Borga yelling the entire time about how bad he fucked up. He knew that though. He was well aware of exactly what was going to happen. He didn't need his mother to explain it to him. Regulus wasn't a child, and he hadn't been for a very long time. You know we need that money for your father's bill, and here you are just throwing it all away to be a. Regulus hung up before she finished her sentence. He knew how it was going to end anyway. First thing was finding Barty. He didn't care about much, and he probably wouldn't care about this, but just to be sure. Fuck. His body was trembling all over. He could barely find the motor function to slip his phone into his back pocket. This was not good. Did Dorca know about it? How had she not told him? He needed to find Barty. He needed to talk to Dorca and to Sirius. He needed. Fuck. What did he need? Breathe. Breathe. Regulus sat back down, curling up a little bit and trying to count the seconds. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The whole world knew now. There was no more hiding, no more lying. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ballet was over for him. His whole life was just swept away in a singular moment. One tiny and literally platonic kiss with Barty had done that. Barty. Shit, he needed to find him. Has the show started? Was he already working? Reg? There, standing in the doorway, was none other than James Potter. Why did he always have to see him when he was at his worst? Go away. His voice did not sound as steady as he wanted it to. Pandora said she couldn't find you, so I came. Potter, I said leave. James didn't listen, which shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was. Regulus was mean, especially when he was trying to gather his bearings. I'm not just going to leave you like this, he said, coming to sit next to Regulus, on the floor, as if it was the most natural thing for the two of them. Wisely, James kept his distance, leaving enough space so that he wouldn't actually touch him. He put his head between his legs. Breathe. 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 It took him a while to figure out that the mantra was coming from James, who was doing breathing exercises, trying to coach Regulus through them. They were working too, and Regulus only paid attention to the sound of his voice. He hated James. Breathe. Regulus didn't want to lift his head back up. He didn't want to have to look at James, acknowledge the fact that he was there, that he knew how to calm someone down from a panic attack. He wanted to crawl inside of his own body, flip a switch, and sleep for a very long time. After a couple minutes of silence, of breathing, Regulus finally spoke. Don't you have to be on the stage? Lion's head haven't even started yet. He sighed, lifting his head finally and leaning it against the wall. He looked like a mess, he was sure of it. His eyeliner was probably smudged, and his eyes were no doubt red. Plus, he was well on his way to being drunk, which didn't help anything. I'm fine. You can go. James smiled, the bastard, and cocked his head to the side, observing Regulus a bit too much for his liking. What? Nothing. But, it's a bit inappropriate considering the circumstances. He raised an eyebrow, not able to help being intrigued. You don't even know what the circumstances are, Regulus pointed out. James had no idea why he was huddled in a ball on the floor. He could be going through withdrawal, for all James knew. Well, okay. I was going to say you look well and properly fucked. And there was just there was something about the way he said it that made Regulus's stomach drop. Had he ever heard James swear before? How was he meant to even stand up now? He felt so weak. If he were to stand, he was positive his legs would wobble. I was just having a panic attack, and you say that? James started laughing, his eyes crinkling up at the corners. Well, I told you it was inappropriate, he defended. And soon Regulus was laughing with him. It was ridiculous, but James did give him fair warning, so do you want me to get someone? James asked. No, just go get ready for the show. Laugh. In case it wasn't obvious, I'm not leaving you alone. I'm an adult. I know. Regulus had no plans to back down, but neither did James, and he held his eye contact. For a moment, Regulus forgot what he was fighting against. All he could think about was the warm and inviting quality to James's eyes. They were so open. Regulus wanted to crawl directly inside of them, see the world from James's perspective. Do you know where Bart is? James faltered, which meant Regulus won the competition that they probably weren't even having. He's working. I need to talk to him. Marlene was nervous. Oh, it had been a long time since she had felt nerves like this. Most girls, well, to put it bluntly, she just slept with them, at least recently. But Dorca, she was different. She was beautiful and she was a bit clumsy around Marlene, but she found it endearing. And she was stable, and she made Marlene laugh. All of this comes to mean that Marlene needs to properly romance her, something that she hasn't done since Mary. It wasn't going to be easy. The show ended late, and most everything would be closed. And there was the fact that they were both already a little bit drunk. One thing that Marlene was sure about, though, she would not be sleeping with Dorca Meadows that night. Sex ruined everything when it was so early, and as attracted as she was to her, it couldn't be about that. Marlene wanted to change. She wanted to form real emotional connections again, even if it was terrifying. You're so embarrassing, Alice told her. Marlene had been fretting about her appearance more than she ever had before. She was going on stage. She was going to get hot and sweat. How she looked now was not how she was going to look in 30 minutes. Shut up and help me. Alice shook her head. You're on your own. Going on stage hardly ever made Marlene nervous anymore. Once she realized that nobody cared that much about the opening act, she let herself open up more, trying out new things, interact with the crowd. She got more confidence from it all. Tonight, completely different story. She spent 5 minutes trying to pick between three almost identical shades of red lipstick. And Benji very bluntly told her she was being ridiculous. They were right. She was doing too much, but what else was she supposed to do? I need a shot, she announced. Benji had basically been holding the bottle of vodka hostage from her, but one more shot wouldn't hurt. In fact, it could only help. You've had enough. I'm going to throw up on you, she told them. Her stomach was in knots, the kind that only a handle of vodka could untangle from her. They blinked in a bit of confusion. We're so weird, they announced. Seconded, Emmeline said from the couch. She was on her phone, smiling at it every once in a while. Marlene was almost positive she was texting Mary. It didn't make her as jealous as it used to. Are you going to serenade her with love songs? Alice teased. I'm going to write so many love songs about her, Marlene thought. She would too. Dorcas deserved a million love songs filled with the most cliche things that are only cute when you're actually in love. Alice picked out a lipstick for Marlene, finally deciding to be helpful. I'm going to have the light tech shine a spotlight on her while I sing Love of My Life, Marlene announced, barely even kidding. Quinn is not our vibe, Benji said. Fuck you, it totally is, she said, although a part of her knew they were right. That song wouldn't fit anywhere in their set list seamlessly.